Awesome.
Okay.
Hey, we are back here this evening or this afternoon or this morning, whichever way it is. We're on this hangout. We were waiting for Freddie. I don't know whether he's just got the time mixed up, but we're here with Michael and we're here with Amy. So hi guys.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
Yeah, we
Pleasure
were
to be
having a
here.
bit of a knit. We were having a bit of a knit natter, and I butted in to say, let's just start the hangout.
Hopefully,
So,
Freddie comes through,
if Freddie
yes.
and if
comes
not,
on, Freddie comes on. Yeah,
we'll have a
Freddie, we
great hangout.
waited 15 minutes, and yeah, let's
Yeah,
just
we
hope he
tried.
comes on.
We tried, Freddie.
But I'm
But
saying we're here because of him.
the show goes on, so the show must go
Yes.
on.
That's
Just before I
right.
pressed the button, because you were talking about the coronavirus. So what did you put into it then, Michael? You said it's this, that, and the other.
I just found it very interesting that Corona has to do with the crown, and I just can't help but relate that to the mind and this mind virus problem that we have, whether that be physical.
Yes, because I think
Yeah,
I had it a couple of weekends ago, and I said to Amy, "It's like I've lost the voice in my
yeah,
head. Like there's a
Yes,
part
I
of me gone.
remember.
I was just like, it was
yeah.
just
It's a
not
very,
there. I felt empty."
very interesting out of body experience is another symptom that people have. But it's just
Ooh.
interesting. Well, you know what? Whether it be a physical virus or just the spiritual aspect of all this mind control, all these ideas, this knowledge that we're being bombarded with here in this technological age that we're living in. You know, just everywhere we look. The coronavirus just very interesting. So many ways.
What are you doing, Michael? We can hear you.
Is there a little feedback or?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll try to. It's probably the microphone.
Yeah, you're
Making it
moving
like that.
around.
So okay.
Amy, how do you feel about it? Because I know that you're a bit worried, aren't you? You don't like it.
Yes, right. Because everything I heard about it, well, you were the first person to cover it, Karen, on your channel, the
Yeah, I did put up a, what do
coronavirus,
you think of this?
and you thought it was probably a lot of hype. And I tried to think that too, but I get scared because even some of the more conservative channels that don't buy into any kind of like fake news or whatever, or publicity stunts, that even they're getting alarmed by it. So every time I
Yeah,
look at
Michael,
YouTube,
we can really hear you. Put yourself on mute while you're moving around, so we can really hear. We can really, yeah,
How's that?
that's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Sorry, Amy, carry on.
so every time I look at YouTube, I see some kind of headline about it. I just right away ignore anything from mainstream media because, of course, they're going to push it and have everybody afraid. But I heard that in America that they're setting up military quarantine camps, I guess you would call them. And
Not
if
this
you get off
quarantine thing again. Remember we
yeah,
did that one?
yes. And if you get off the plane and they suspect that you might have the coronavirus, you have to go to the military facility, and they'll keep you. It's only supposed to be 14 days, but I heard they're not letting people out. And there was a video over in China where they grabbed these two people off of the street. They said that they had the coronavirus, and the people were screaming, and they put them into like a box that was in the back of a truck or something. It was very horrible. So
But that's the point, isn't it? It's to frighten everybody.
I think it's just to frighten everybody. And the symptoms are like a fever and maybe like a bad cold. So it doesn't sound like anything like that terrible or that unusual. But then they have different numbers of how many people have died or are going to die from it. And everybody is arguing about is it exaggerated? The last thing I watched, which was actually a person who usually doesn't buy into the hype or anything, and she was saying that they are underestimating the number of people that are going to die, and it's just everybody has a different opinion when it a lot of the Christians think it's sign of the end times and you better get right with God because this could be it. It's some kind of a plague. I think it was a man
I think they
made
just want to
thing.
quarantine us. They just
That's
want to
what I think.
quarantine the people.
Yes, I think so too. And just we're hearing different reports of different states where people have turned up with it. I think you said somebody had it over in a town near you,
Well, Brighton. They
Karen.
said I saw it just on
Yes,
a
in
feed.
Brighton.
Person in
Yeah.
Brighton found to have. Oh, dearie me.
And then they showed a video in China, and all the healthcare workers were practically having a nervous breakdown and they were crying, and they have to work all 24 hours a day trying to save the people, and they can't do it, and they don't have enough facilities for them. So it's just like it was really. I'm trying not to get scared about it. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's just hype. I'm not even afraid about like the virus itself. I'm just afraid about the way they're going about it with the quarantine. And a lot of people think they're going to make up a vaccine. They think that's the next step, that we're going to have to get some kind of a vaccine. And who knows what they'll put in the vaccine.
Bit of a shame it didn't hand its way towards certain people. You know what I mean? You know, like it's still directed at the people. It's a bit of a shame the ones higher up didn't get any of these things.
That's what somebody else said. They said till it affects certain people, it's not going to be a big deal or whatever. But you would think if they said it may become a pandemic, like epidemic, I guess is like one country, but you know, now it may be declared a pandemic or whatever. But I haven't heard the president or the prime ministers or anything making any announcements about it. You would think if it was really this big thing that they would have some kind of a speech or something. So it's basically.
What's
Can you
your
guys hear me
thoughts,
now?
Michael? Yeah,
Yes.
what's your thoughts, Michael? Listen to
Well,
Amy.
Well, you say the pandemic, the last thing you said.
Yeah.
The World Health Organization, I think, is that like some kind of international
Yeah.
regulating committee for this stuff that might be connected.
Yes.
I don't know if like the CDC is the
Center for
some kind of
Disease
some kind of
Control.
branch of that, maybe like a U.S. branch of that.
Yeah.
But this thing is I don't know if did they officially declare this thing as a world health emergency or whatever the classification is, because I know that they were talking about doing this 2-3 days ago, and like I said, I haven't really looked too much into it. But
yeah, I don't think they have come out and declared it yet, but it acts like they're getting ready to.
yeah, there's kind of like a gray area here to where like you're either saying
it's very
you're saying like, well, the whole thing's a hoax, is you know, they're kind of, you know, as usual, like, come on, you know, right?
It's really strange with that video I put out.
You know, of course it's man-made, and of course Bill Gates made it, and it's just another SARS. And then it's like if you're not doing that, then you're just totally overboard and saying that, you know, it's going to kill all RH positive people in the world, and it's just going to it's killing so many more people than they're telling us it is, and it's like it's like people are afraid to touch on it really because they really don't know themselves anyway, and it's just like, you know, so it's a tough one. So unless people can profit off of like fear mongering, or if they're just that particular portion of the truther community that really gets into these things, you know, whether you know, reminds you almost of the fake shootings and some of these other topics that just, you know, eat up all of our time, really. Bottom line, right?
Exactly. That's right.
Well, we're here, so I hope Freddie didn't get it.
Yeah, right. I hope
not come on.
Yeah,
I hope yeah, he wasn't struck with it. They said somewhere, you know, what's really interesting is there was a case in Chicago, you know, because there's only so many documented cases in the United States thus far.
Right.
There's one in Chicago, and then there was one Forest Grove over this way, very close to where I am in Oregon. So that's That's
Oh
funny. It's
wow.
funny to me.
Yeah.
It's
I
following me
haven't.
around.
I know.
But
I haven't heard any.
I just feel like, if they really wanted to unleash something, they would have done this through like chemtrails or some other way by now. It's like if they wanted to take the guns, they would have done that after 9/11 years and years ago. They would have come in by force. They would have started
Yeah.
the FEMA camp thing a long time ago. So
Yeah.
they keep these narratives alive. Are you going to take the guns? Are you not going to take the guns? Is this virus going to kill us all? But
Yes.
we have definitely had these, uh, swine flu, the H1N1, and then there was SARS, and there was Zika, which I think that makes babies' heads come out really deformed and small, just scarred. They're totally ruined for life.
Oh, that's right. I
Um,
forgot
that's
that
one of the
one.
symptoms of it. There's the child
Yeah.
is that's not the actual virus, but it's somehow related to it, but through the mosquito bites.
Yes.
But all of these things, I think, are like public information to be man-made, and just
Yes.
like with the coronavirus itself in Wuhan is where it originated, and that's where the facilities were to make it. So like
Right.
when SARS happened, they were already warning about that was going to get out, and we needed to build these facilities with the whole intention of having the vaccine in place, like you were saying. So it's like they have
Yes.
it's almost like there's so much more to this than they're telling us, and it can't be as simple as they're saying that just some virus escaped, and
Right.
so do we really don't
They
even
would
know.
love to put
Uh,
everybody into quarantine, wouldn't they, right
yeah,
now? That seems to be their main objection, is to get us into quarantine.
Yes.
yeah, they could be like experiments on, in China could be a population like the starting
Yeah.
the ground zero for such experiments, just on that type
When do you
of
know that
population.
that program I put out
Yes. From
on
19.
Unscrambled? It basically says, he said, well, no one can go there, no one can see it, so who,
Well,
you can't
if you
prove it.
if you
So you might
understand
go
Yes.
to China and nobody knows what's going on. What do you mean coronavirus? Huh?
That's
if
You
you
right.
under
know?
if you understand a little bit about the Asian um uh I don't mindset anthropology, but the Asian spiritual side of things, and the blood types as well. So they are 90 something percent Rh positive
Oh wow.
in that country.
Oh, I never knew
So,
that.
it's like if there's something called losing face, where like if you like get humiliated to a point, like you like can't live with yourself, and like you like kill yourself. But there's just like submissive aspect to it where it's very
Yeah.
submiss. That's why you see like the society is you see like the masks, the little doctors masks being worn through the airports, and
Yes.
it's just like everybody is the same height, and they all got the masks on. They're just like marching in line like one just big army, and it's
Yeah.
like, so there's a lot of that there. So it could be like ground zero for some kind of experiment to where, okay, the like they say California is owned by China, right? Got all these theories out here. So they do kind of initiate these new technologies. In this case, it would be whatever technology in the new virus. Whatever, like I said, we don't know the extent of what's actually going on behind the scenes. What are all the true goals
That's
that
right.
they may be trying to accomplish through this,
That's what I'm saying. They seem to like to want
yeah,
us in quarantine.
other than just the mind control aspect. What's the physical aspects of this? Is this some kind of incubated virus that's going to be like now going to be activated again with like a phase 2 of
Right.
they'll come up the solution of the vaccine, or through nanotechnology, all these the Morgellons disease. There's a guy, Toronto Tommy. He's got a YouTube, and he's got a little Facebook group, the Truth.
Yeah,
Tommy,
we know Tommy. We know
yeah,
Tommy.
and Tommy spoke about. He's touched on nanoparticles and that aspect of things. So it's just if there wasn't any real truth to this, it's like I said,
Yeah.
that's us, secondary to all the mind control around it already.
Yes.
So
Well,
Which they do like to try and they do want to control us, or that's
yeah.
what it's about, isn't it?
So I don't say that it's like meaningless and it's a joke, but it's also how far you really dig into it. And if you go too far down that rabbit hole, are you really benefiting yourself with just
that
speculating on information?
that's
Spec
right.
speculating is good, philosophizing is
They're all
good,
things though to take your
but
mind away, though, aren't they? And to take you
yeah,
somewhere else
yeah,
rather than where we were going.
right. They
Yes.
do eat up your time and captivate your mind, and they kind of
Yeah.
live these ideas, they live rent free in your head, and they
So what we do is we're moving on and we're having a hangout, but we are talking about it because that's all you
well,
can do,
yeah.
isn't it?
Well, well, exactly, Karen, and talking about these things are not negative. It's just kind of like it helps you connect the dots along the way of like, okay, this was because the way they've intermingled everything and mixed everything together,
Exactly.
this kind of really distinguishes where the light from darkness. So,
Yes.
it's like you actually benefit from all the turmoil in your life and all the mind fucks, excuse my French, but that we've gone through. That if
Yes.
we don't grow from them spiritually and move on from them, they will be nothing but a detriment to us. So it's basically like, how fast can you get over it? And it goes back to childhood trauma. Like, how fast can you move on and get on with your life? And that's what it comes down to. And we go through these different tests at different points in our life. And a big one is the midlife crisis, which
Yes.
Oh,
for
thanks
me,
for that
for me,
one.
you know, and I think it for me observing this phenomenon, it's like some of us go through it earlier than others, but the bottom line is it's like kind of recognizing your life is not what you thought it was, and that
That's right.
you kind of spend a big portion of your life trying to live up to this version of yourself, this false image of pleasing everybody else in society, starting with mommy, daddy, your spouse, your kids, whatever it might be, everybody,
Exactly.
and just projecting this false image of yourself and just draining you. It just drains
Oh,
your
that's
whole,
right.
and it just sucks your energy from you. So part of the first steps is dealing with that, because even if it's slow growth, that has to be dealt with, your own personal growth and healing before anything else. Everything else is secondary. So, yep. And that's what
Oh, that's a
I,
good
I, I
point.
don't think we talk
Yes.
about that enough, the healing aspect, because it's so vital to everything. Our own
Yes.
health, our own spiritual health. And, even with that is connected to the body. And
Yes.
the CDC has even admitted that 90% of disease begins in your mind. So,
Well,
you're
Yeah,
feeling
that's
bad,
right. It's
yeah,
dis-ease. Dis-ease is disease in
exactly.
your body.
That's why they call it
right.
disease, because you're not at ease about something, and then it creates a physical reaction in your body. As above, so below. So it's just, it's like how you feel about yourself is creating a physical reaction in your body. And
Yes.
But that week, right? I wasn't going anywhere. All I know is, oh my, don't come near me. I've got a cold. Don't come near me. I've got. And then, lo and behold, it's like I got everybody's cold all in one at the week. Not last weekend, the weekend before. Well, I just couldn't believe it. My inner voice had gone. I told Amy, I just don't feel good. I just don't feel good at all. But that's how it
Right.
made me feel. That's whatever it was. I think but there's just a root of cold going everywhere, isn't there?
Yes. That's right.
Whatever. Oh, have we lost? Yeah, we've got everybody here. Yeah, Michael's gone a bit quiet.
just
Oh.
no Freddie, right? Just no Freddie.
Just no Freddie.
I hope he's okay, and maybe he got a little cold feet or something, or maybe next time. But
He
hopefully he's
probably
doing okay.
just forgot. It's just
Yeah,
I've done it before where I've had hangouts and I've arranged it and then I've forgotten. Like occasionally I've forgotten a premiere or I've gone to sleep or something. Oh, I'll have to go and scramble over there.
Right. Yeah, I didn't want to miss today's. I had a late night last night,
Yeah, you
so
did,
I was.
Amy. 8 o'clock this morning, you were on my phone.
Yes,
So,
I was up late. So I
so just to
sleep.
talk about the weather, how's that, you guys? Let's kind of
Well,
start with.
I woke up with a thunderstorm, with this very fast-moving thunderstorm this morning. Lots of clouds, lots of everything, and then just a minute ago, everything was clear and everything, and now the moon's been taken over by clouds. But then we had clear sky, but now it's clouded up again. Grey, just grey
Oh,
and raining.
yeah, that's
So,
how it's been here all week too. But today it's sunny where I live, so but cool.
so I want to talk about. I'll give you my little observations on the weather and just a little bit that I know about it. Coming from Chicago, born and raised there, I started to look at the weather. You know, like
Yeah,
a lot of us, what piqued our interest was we heard about chemtrails. So
yeah,
we physically looked up, observed, and then researched online or whatever it might have been. And that's what, uh, introduced a lot of us into this geoengineering aspect of it. And, does the government do it? How long have they been doing it? So on and so forth. What are they spraying? You get what I'm saying? How it affects the weather.
yes.
So in Chicago, well, I guess let's back up to Al Gore, because Al Gore is the guy who they made famous with the global warming video. And that was really big. And that's what helped to push this global warming aspect on the masses. Just your
Mm,
everyday,
Got to have that word global on it, hasn't it?
yeah, because
yes.
they wanted to make it a reality just for your everyday poor person in society that every man, woman, and child would know about it. So right around the time of internet and the introduction of the personal computer in the home of just about everybody, unless you were dirt poor, of course you didn't have one. What
Right.
was this global warming video? They really wanted to push this thing. So, and still to this day, I would say the majority of people believe in this thing, this global warming aspect. So now back,
Yeah.
so back to this Chicago. Recently within the last 5-10 years, observing the weather, I noticed that things were kind of colder than they were saying. So it was weird because they were totally stressing these warm days. Like
Mm.
you would see, 20 degrees above the average high today. And then they would stress that all week, these heat waves, but they weren't stressing these deep freezes that we were going through, like 80 below deep. So
Oh,
they kind of, what's going on is they kind of play with the statistics to where, um, because what statistics are funny because you can make them say anything you want, right? So that's
yeah.
what they've done with this climate change under the global warming aspect of it to make the numbers higher than they really are
Mm.
in reality. And like back in the 70s, they used to push that the Earth was cooling. So just like they
Yes.
have a consensus now for global warming, 90 something percent of scientists. Well, the vast majority of scientists said that the Earth was cooling in the 70s. So they've been up to this stuff for a long time. It's like
Yeah.
the movie Soylent Green with Charleston Heston, that they were saying that the oceans were dangerously heating up, killed all the and they
Yeah.
and that was the same thing, and that was set in 2022 with the Oceanic Review Board, which is like the same thing it's called today. It's like,
Oh, wow.
and it's just so they just have been doing these things for a long time. It's just like they're giving us like reruns on the same mind control.
Yes.
So back to the Chicago weather, just I noticed it's colder than they're saying, and I started to notice these chemtrails. So the last thing I noticed was the patterns that I picked up on was these north winds. So
Hmm.
they don't like to spray as much on these north winds because then they have to battle against the cold fronts. So
Mm.
they kind of work with the natural patterns. So like if the wind's
Mm-hmm.
coming up, they can trap. So what they're actually doing is not just blocking the sun. sunlight, like you hear, that's the main thing you hear when people talk about geoengineering. They're blocking the sun. They're blocking the sun. They're also trapping the heat in the atmosphere, creating a microwave effect. So to make it,
Oh,
so in other words, to make it seem warmer than it is, to counteract that we may actually be going into an ice age.
I've heard
So,
that.
so,
In my research, though, Michael, with the
so,
past, it looks like it
right.
was
So,
colder. It looked like it was colder in the past than it is now.
depending on who
like
you're talking
1900s,
to,
1910, 1911, they had very cold weather, very cold weather, very
right.
cold weather, very cold weather. There's been very cold weather in the past.
And then, they try to blame that on human, with the automobile and
Yes.
blaming this on a human pollution problem with CO2 and saying
Don't
that
you
that's
find that crazy though? We could have been electric. They gave us the cars, and then they're telling us it's our fault. Basically, like it's just crazy.
Well, yeah. So one more real quick thing about this. So basically, I come to the conclusion that they use the wind when they're spraying, and there's more than just a blocking of the sun. They're also trapping in the heat. So,
Wow.
and then just another little thing to finish off on this weather thing is that when I came out to Oregon, the temperatures were actually colder in October at night than they are now, and here we are in February. So it's very, very strange.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
So
we're
recently,
out
like,
kilter, aren't we, with our season?
yeah, we had like a 60-degree day a couple days ago, and then here we were
Wow.
back in the 30s at night, and then low 40s today. But it's been very strange. It's been, a cocktail. Another thing, a cocktail of chemtrails. So you're getting different chemtrails. It's almost like, you hear this thing about the HARP and the magnetic field and being able to like manipulate the ions and form like, chemical. Because you look up there, you see these weird looking grid clouds that you're like, well, that thing's like square. How did that
Yes.
form into like a puffy
I've
little,
quite
looks like a,
regularly seen
right?
those grid clouds going up past
Looking
me.
like
Yes, I know what you
those
mean.
little, like a
Yeah.
puffy little cookie, like a cookie sheet or something. So those are the ones I started to notice more of these. Oh, I don't know, 6 months ago, where they kind of went from the traditional chemtrails into more and more of these like burst cloud formations. So that's
Wow.
all I wanted to say is that it's just not. We don't know exactly what they're doing, but if I had to, like, somebody had a gun to my head, I would say, like, okay, it's not just steadily warming because of human.
Right.
I would say, there must be something else to it, and what that actually consists of would probably just send you down another rabbit hole until
I
I don't think
you know
know.
what I
people
mean.
realise though
So
the clouds aren't really that far up in the sky, and they're doing it all above our heads.
right,
Yeah.
right.
That's right.
When you think the clouds are not that far away, and then they're manipulating and doing things and right over our heads.
Yes.
None of that can be very good for us, whatever they're doing, all the games they're playing.
That's right. That's what I think. I think that's why so many people are getting sick and everything. And I think it's because of these chemtrails. I think because my father, that recently passed away of the brain tumor, we were just shocked that we never had cancer in our family, and he took such good care of himself, but it was in his brain. It wasn't really, anything you could put a real cause to. But I keep saying it's in the air, the chemtrails and everything. My family doesn't even believe in chemtrails. they laugh at me when I first started noticing them myself. And
Well, yeah. It's like
yeah,
there's now I've noticed, and then we might as well use the chemtrails as an example. There's a lulling of the population to where, as much as we do see people finally catching on to some of the simple things in life that
yeah,
have been hidden from us from so long, and they've tried to complicate things and separate us from ourselves for so long. But then there's the other aspect of the majority is just, still so far gone.
Yes. Yeah.
So like stuff like people who say that they don't believe in chemtrails, where that's been public information since John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson, and
Oh,
before
right.
before that, with like Eisenhower and stuff. So just
Well, yeah.
for someone to say now in 2020 that they don't believe in them
Do you know what's
is
really
like
strange though, Michael? Michael,
they're lulling people to sleep to a point to
Yeah.
where like, okay, go to sleep, little child. You were not
Yes.
gonna make make it anyways. We're sorry, but
do you know what's really
so we're
strange
seeing
about
like
this though?
it's
Like
like
sometimes
yeah
when
yeah
when hurricanes and things come in,
Yeah.
like they could use their listing to direct them out, but they don't.
exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like just
Yeah.
like with the guns, if they wanted to take the guns, they could have did it. All right. Granted, now there is some red flag laws that they've done, so they kind of slowly are putting laws into place here and there. But if they wanted to physically take the guns, they could
Right.
have done it when people were still in La La Land and after 9/11. They could have put it into action then and
Yes.
said that the Muslims were coming and start burning cities down with CIA agents, Al Qaeda.
Right.
If they wanted
Yeah.
to take the guns, or whatever then. So there's a little more to it than that. And the sooner we see that, the better we will be, better
They've
off
got
we're
to
going
keep
to be.
this ongoing though, haven't they? Because they want to feed the people all the time. So you can't, oh, well, that's over. They'll need another cause now. So they keep all the causes going. So we get another strain like it's
Yeah,
coronavirus now. It's another
Right.
thing. It's another one. It's another one. Ugh.
another one
Yeah.
until they come
Uh,
up with another one, another one, another one until they come up with the whole new system. Well, they got everybody
Yes.
still chasing the old breadcrumbs. And that's like where this new age,
yeah,
this
you
all
have
this
to
new,
have a microchip.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
to
yeah.
make you just into a useful slave, a corporatized slave. And then if you're walking about free, somebody, you better be working for them, and you better be like a new agent in the new world, one of the pioneers, like another a Columbus NPC character in the new world.
Yes. It was just
So,
like that video that Karen put out when Unscrambled from 1968. And the man goes to apply for the job, and they've got to predict the news or create the news for from 5 years into the future. So, and he finds out he's had a microchip in him ever since he
oh
had
yeah,
surgery. I
that's
couldn't
awesome.
believe it.
Isn't that an
Yeah,
amazing,
it
captivating
was.
clip?
It was, and it
Yeah, it's like you got
reminds
to
me
watch
of what we're
full one.
going, what's going on today. Like he couldn't believe it that they knew everything he had done, and his whole personal life. And then at the end, he's gonna end up. He doesn't want to work for them, but they're like, "See you Monday. You'll start on Monday." And so I couldn't believe how it feels like the way they're predicting the news and to the future. It's like it feels
I
like
know
what
that
they
50,
probably
50, 60
do.
years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 1968. Yes.
Any of you guys know Matt from Quantum of Conscious on YouTube?
Oh, yes.
He's got
I've
like
watched some of
50K
his. Yeah.
50K subscribe. He's got the little dragon mask icon
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he did something. He draw my attention to a song IGY by Donald Fagen. He was
Oh, wow.
a band member from Steely Dan. Like we all know Steely Dan. So he's somebody I guess he went solo after that. So he did this song IGY, and it talks about trust big machines to make big decisions.
Oh,
And
wow.
like there's like there's like a verse in there, right? And it goes and it says another one is like we'll be clean when they're done with their work, when they're done with their work, like the masses will be clean, like we'll be.
Wow.
And it's like yeah. And then there's another one like we could trust them to make big decisions, like because like, we could
Mm.
trust, yeah, like we could trust these good fellows, like to program us is
Oh,
another
that's,
verse. Yeah.
yeah.
So there's like, it's interesting because that was back in the song is IGY, International Geophysical Year, and it's actually a 17-month period where a bunch of nations got together and discussed ideas about like space and different world problems that we
Wow.
were dealing with. And so just they've had all these things, when we talk about like the NWO, that's nothing new. Like
Yeah.
Paul Warburg, one of his sons or his grandchildren got up before Congress and said, "We will have a new world order."
Oh.
It's a question of whether that's going to be by consent or by conquest. So,
Yeah.
so we always have to remember all this awakening and uh, information that gets leaked out and whatnot. They're trying to mold us into a particular state of consciousness. They're directing us into a desired state. Like you're going to be a good little slave, or you're not going to be any threat to us.
Right.
It's
Oh.
like you get over the trauma of what happened to you, or you just die out and you get lost along the way.
Yes.
Like just got lost in the mix. It was just too much for you,
Wow.
and that's what we've come to. And in the corporate slave atmosphere, this plantation, that's prison planet, it
Yes.
went from like the slave model to like, you're just a corporate slave no matter where you go.
Exactly.
So the first step to that is like beating that in your head, like overcoming that
Yes.
false self in your mind, like no longer having to identify as a slave, as a victim. So that's your first step to everything. It's like,
That's why I said they're trying to quarantine us all the time. There's always got to be something
right.
Yeah.
I
on the
absolutely
agenda, hasn't there?
always. It's like the next little test, the fear separation to, but then that's what I'm saying, to where like the new psyops are coming in, to where they're trying to unify everybody with
Right.
this false unification thing, false love. And then so that's where the next stage of while there's still, everyone's divided internally against themselves. So
Yes.
all the hidden racism and hidden hatred is still there, but they're trying to false unify us. So this game is just evolving into. That's why I said like the
Yes, because
Luciferian.
how do you become at peace with yourself if all you're doing is going on YouTube and watching the hype?
That's
You're always
true.
Good
focusing on
point.
something else all the
Good
time.
point. Good point. Yeah, there has to be. A lot of us know it as that catastrophic event in our life that made us um, really have to question, really have to dig deep down for strength and question the path that we were taking. A lot of us are familiar with these traumatizing events that have happened to us. Now, what you do with it at that point, I think, is where you're either you evolve, or you just get sent around for another loop, trapped into the circuit, because they love to
Yeah.
get you. They get you when you're down, you're at a low point, and they initiate you into a Freemasonic mystery, whether it be Christianity or any of the other guises under the mask of atheism, agnostic, or New Age. It doesn't matter. As soon as you start looking to them for salvation and the next comforting little shortcut idea, knowledge-seeking mindset, you're just kind of putting a band-aid on something that you could have done yourself, could have genuinely made true progress yourself with, because that's the step.
Yeah.
That's the one we think of as like there's a shortcut to this. I'm going to research the Bible 24/7, or I'm going to research this, or join the secret society. And there's really no shortcut at the end of the day, because the universe is always watching you. You can't escape it. Try to hide. You try to prolong judgment. Judgment day's now. Like you judge yourself now, or prolong it to your own detriment. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
2020 might just be a number. No, I understand. Nobody knows what day it really is, but it's a very profound period in time as well.
So, so how did you become so at peace with your self, Michael? It sounds like you had maybe a awakening within yourself at some point, because I can tell you're really at peace with your inner self. So what helped you to get to that point? where
just
you're just at peace with yourself.
just a balance of being stubborn stubborn enough, you know, and
Yeah,
just humble enough to where finally um, get some of these lessons before it's too late. Is what it comes down to.
yeah,
Sometimes in the past, to give you an example, I dwelled on the past too long and the way that things could have been. You
yes,
know, this should have been this way. Things could have been so much better. And then to realize that, well, as much as I would have liked things to be better or thought that it should have been better, that was still my false self at that time that thought he was in control. So
yeah,
it's an alternate reality that doesn't really exist, what I want it to
right,
be. And it's just unnecessary turmoil and blame and guilt and hatred that I was just adding fuel to the fire by not addressing the issues. Like for example, okay, these things hurt me emotionally, so but now taking it a step further, and what does that mean to me now? Like
right,
what could I learn from it, and why does it hurt me so bad? And how much of this was really me feeling it, or me trying to
mm-hmm,
fit the mold of emotions in society, and me trying to live up to the character that I thought I was supposed to be. So it really
wow,
has a lot to do with letting go, not just for the sake of letting go, as in like a meditation exercise, but kind of
yeah,
no longer needing to cheat yourself or feel like you're behind in the race. Like, oh, I fell so
yeah,
far behind in life. Look how
oh,
or like, look how I've ruined my life.
Well, you can only
So
get this
I guess,
far if you know
yeah,
who you are, don't you? When you know who you are, everything stops going in, everything starts coming out. Like you
yeah,
can talk about it, you
right.
can express it, you can whatever. Like if you don't know who you are, you're always stuck in yourself. I don't know, I don't
But
know.
but
Mm,
it's sometimes a good point to be because that means that you're still seeking, so something's not perfectly in tune, but you know that something's there. So you're kind of like speaking to yourself constantly, trying to get yourself to figure out these things. So like even like when you come into contact with someone and you're like, how about that Epstein, or how about that flat Earth, or how about that your shoe is going to return soon, and then or whatever, right? So
yeah,
you're actually right. So you're talking to yourself. You're making sure you're trying to make yourself believe these things, and you're pushing them onto another person, trying to initiate them. So like in other words, you're passing on that virus, and
mm,
that's how these Freemason initiations work. They want to be harmless thing, something that you were enlightened with, and now you're going to pass that on to others. But at the end of the day, it's an idea was designed as a
yeah,
philosophy, with sinister intentions, so to speak. If you get ego involved, you think you got the answers when it's just all this info is here on the table, and now
mm-hmm,
it's what do we do with that now?
right, yeah, it's,
So as much as we would like the shortcut, um, there's it comes to a point where we have to put our own work in as well.
that's right.
There's no free ride. It's like here's your trophy, you won. But then you don't really feel like I didn't really win. What the hell? I didn't do anything. I don't want this. It's like with the teams now, the t-ball or the soccer, and then they say both teams win at the end of the game.
Yes,
You know what I mean? It's like always a tie or whatever. Like what is that? What is that doing? That's too far the other way now,
yeah, y-
right? Because now you
y-
just know you don't have to do anything. Just it's all the same. So
You mean how they don't want to keep a score for the children that are playing sports now?
yeah.
Or
Oh
yes,
yeah. It's just all just everybody wins. There's
right.
no win.
I
Nobody
agree.
lost.
It's yeah. My
So
daughter
it's like,
always plays sports. It wouldn't be any fun if there wasn't, there's got to be somebody that won and somebody who didn't
yeah,
win.
that's the whole purpose of it.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
it's like these things are being like intentionally inverted, right? To
Mm-hmm.
the point to now where they're going to incite a reaction out of us. So, okay, so for example, now we all are familiar with like this pedophile problem, and like now with the child pornography becoming like mainstream, and teaching like here in California, I guess they teach like 15 different genders in school or something like that,
Yes.
or who knows, right? If that's really
Yeah.
true.
Right.
But
I
but
heard
but
that.
that's an example. They go with something that everybody is disgusted by,
Mm-hmm.
Are
and
they
then they
slowly
start with
trying to turn us all into one? Because, when
yeah,
you look at the weather, we used to think America had much better weather than us. There's lots of places in America that have very English kind of weather. And
Yes.
yeah.
but is it they're trying to make us all into one?
That's
The
kind of
whole
where I
thing
was
is,
saying the new
yeah,
psyop, the new angle
Yeah.
of the consciousness is where they're trying to go with now. Because if you got 7 billion people, and I'm not
Mm.
saying it's overpopulation to the point to where like there's no room, right? There's room for what, 3, 4 times that at least, right?
Yeah.
And still, because we're all packed in cities. But
Right.
it's you have this many people now. What are you going to do? You're either going to what, kill them all, or just make them all brain dead, or they're going to go into this next phase of like you said, universal consciousness, automation. Everybody governs themselves. So you're either just going to be like, whether it be the physical microchip scenario, or the new Freemason, the new slave, because
Yeah.
those guys who think that they're really onto something are just slaves. Freemasons are just slaves because that's something you got to be born into. Let's face it. They're not going to give away the secrets to, you know, if you're not blood, you're, you know what I mean? So even
Yeah.
those guys, so that's what we might be coming to, some kind of universal consciousness. You either get in, or you become no threat. You survive on your,
Well.
you survive based on your own. So another testing period to where, while people are still trying to figure out the old system and the old ways of things, problem, reaction, solution, they're already moving on to a new type of mind control and a new
Oh.
psyop, to where they just want everybody to agree to these things,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like in the clip that Karen put the other night, because the man said, "Well, I'm only on the seventh floor, so I'm not like the highest up. I've got 2 floors above me." He said, "I'm not making all this stuff up. I just work for them." So like,
Right.
who's the highest up? Like you said, like bloodlines, is
Yes.
that's who is the highest, who they are, that is trying to control everything. It's pretty it's a lot to wrap your mind around, but
It really
it's
is. But you
it
do wonder about
is.
the level of pollution in the world. Um,
Yes.
you wonder about, is there going to be a point to where there will be a mass extinction? Uh, 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 what would you call that? Refining process, the refining fire, to where they kind of rejuvenate the earth. And have they
Mm.
done this many times before? To with
Yeah.
and that's where we get these aspects of the time travelers in science fiction. And for those of you guys who haven't seen They Live, really really check that out. And with internet now,
Yes.
it's easy to
Yes,
find
that's
these
another very
movies.
good film to show you what's happening. They live.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so like I say, these movies really do tell us the truth. But it's not in the goofy way that they portray it there. So there's just more truth. It's just right in your face, just like in everything. Like they're
Right.
doing these magic, So the time and when he puts these
Can I
glasses
ask you
on,
something, Michael? Well, how come they let these films out then? Like that
it's
1968, it's still circulating. I put it out, that um the documentary on Unscrambled last night. I've put that out. I mean, they're still circulating. They're still
well,
being
some
allowed
say that.
out to show us what you know.
Well, some say that the truth has to be revealed. So there's a term called revelation of the method, which
Hmm.
means they have to actually reveal the plans that they're doing. And then there's another term called ritual mockery, that says that they actually do these things in your face as a form of mockery to get to. So,
Wow.
but we can get into all the why are they doing it and why are these things still out there? Just like we could try to figure out why they censored certain things that
Whatever they've done is really good because they've totally covered up our history.
Oh, it's really good.
And we can't find out what our past is about, even though we've got the big buildings everywhere. There's pyramids
Exactly.
everywhere. There's all these things everywhere in Australia, in America, in Europe, in the Middle East, pyramids everywhere. No one's talking about it. Everybody's finding them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Leaving a bit of mystery, so you never really have the full account of it.
Right.
It's based on your intentions the whole time too. Like what did you really intend to do with the information? And it's like you're talking about this clip again with how there's people above him, right?
Yeah.
And then they were talking about the machine in that clip. That's why I talked about the IGY and that. But yeah, it's like almost like they let these lower minions do the dirty work because they don't even want to get their hands dirty. So that's another interesting way to look at it. It's like that's for the lower ones to do. Like you want to do the bad with this thing and do our work just to make this whole thing speed this whole thing up because we're trying to wake people up here and and like you're either gonna get it or you're not. That's just one other far-fetched way to look at it. Instead of like they're always trying to kill everybody and make them retarded, they actually were trying to wake you up by giving you so much darkness at once that like to actually make you see a lesson. Just something to throw out there.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Instead of constantly feeling sorry, like the demonic, the serpent people are coming. There's other possibilities here, but it's all the way that you see the world is the most important. The way you define yourself and the rest of the world is the key because it all starts with you. At the end of the day, that's the bottom line.
It stops me going out the same because so many people out there are into the globe world and I'm not. So I don't want to go out the same. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be in my own space.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
I bet you,
too.
Because right next to you, Amy and you, Michael, don't live next to me.
Right. I feel I've been so connected to people through Facebook that I never thought I would have met so many like-minded individuals. So it almost makes you think of like the Facebook slogan of like whatever it says, connecting people around the world or whatever. It's like almost true, And like some of the friend suggestions are like, wow, like this, they really did share a lot of interest I had. It was like, wow, they're giving me a good friend suggestion. So see, we're at like a point in time where, like I said, 2020, I understand, nobody knows the real dates, but we really are at this limbo point, this 0 point in time.
Did you hear on one of our hangouts that Claudio, it was on Claudio hangout, I think, he was looking at the letters, I can't remember who it is now, it's a few hangouts ago, but basically it was I-790 whatever, and it's been turned into 1790. So we've actually picked up a whole Kill the Beast. That's right. Yeah. Oh, whoopsie daisy. Whoops. Of course. I hear it now in my brain. So basically, I've added on a whole 1,000 years.
Yeah, wow, he said the I-7.
That's a hell of a discrepancy, right?
Yes.
Chop off 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just listening to that last night when he said that the I-790 on the map, and they just made it into a 1, and that's how they got the date or whatever.
Yeah, so I've got 1,000 years added in somewhere.
Unreal.
It's
unreal,
really crazy.
Isn't it?
Yes.
We don't even know who we are, where we are, what year it is.
I know. I just can't get over how I figured out that the Earth was flat. and I thought, oh, where did you get that idea? And I just got to thinking, it just makes sense. But I didn't know anybody, I had no idea anybody believed that until I saw when like YouTube or the internet, and it would only be in a mocking way. They'd say, you probably believe the earth is flat. And I think, well, I kind of do. And then I found out that people really, do believe it. But it just came to me. I just find it so
Michael,
amazing.
it sounds like you're having an argument.
Oh no. Ah.
Sorry saying that. We can just hear it. The microphone's very sensitive. It hears everything you do.
Yeah, damn thing.
We know
Yeah.
what you're doing. Moving around.
Ah.
But yeah, it's quite incredible, really. Oh wow, it's just like it just blows your mind, doesn't
Yeah,
it? Every day there's something you learn, and you think, oh my god.
I know. I mean, I'll be 53 years old, and just, everything that I believed has just changed so much. And it all started through, I mean, there was some things that woke me up, but nothing woke me up like your channel, Karen, when we covered that certain case.
Yeah, the certain case, yeah.
And that really just woke me up, and then we started seeing everything else. And
well, I knew if we could overthrow this case, then we would have got the media who would
right,
doing it, but it didn't happen that way, did it? So
that's right.
we have to just carry on, and then I start looking at other things, and I'm thinking, oh my god, it's all the same.
I know.
It doesn't matter whether it's them or the politics.
I know.
I wonder what Freddie thinks about all this.
I don't know. He's not here, is he?
It's too bad.
Yes, that's right. I know. Oh,
Yeah, I'm
but
sorry, Michael. You got me and Amy.
Oh no, that's fine. It worked out great.
oh,
Freddie, who knows?
Yeah, but speaking of weather, I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous right now. There isn't a cloud in the sky. It's just blue. It is so
Awesome.
beautiful. We haven't seen this and I was just telling my daughter, I said, I think that we kind of get England's weather because Karen had been saying about like she would have a certain weather pattern, but then we would get the same one. Like Karen would say, it's been raining the past couple of days. Then a couple of days later, we'd get the rain. And my daughter said, well, we don't get the fronts and everything wouldn't work out that way. We're not getting what England had, but it almost feels like that. But today is just beautiful. And if we haven't seen the sun in so long, it's just these slate gray skies, and
we see it even less.
good.
We have cloud. We have a lot of cloud here. I don't remember this as a child. I don't, but as a child, you don't remember the weather, do you? And you don't care. It's as you get older you care.
I know. I know, but when we would get a lot of rainy days or foggy days, my father would say, "What are we living in London now? What is going on? Are we in?" We'd talk about the London fog or whatever.
When was this?
Oh, this was years ago. This is probably maybe in the 80s even.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we just go, my mother would always say, but we'd get these just rainy seasons, and my mother would always say, I bet they sent a space shuttle up and it messed up the atmosphere. They're always sending a space shuttle up. That was her theory. And she said they shouldn't be doing it. It messes up the atmosphere. And she would get so mad when we just get like days and days of rain when you want to see a little bit of sun. So
yeah, who knows when they really? There's so much mystery around.
Yeah.
There's a Grateful Dead song that was written by actually this guy Hunter Thompson, I think. It wasn't even written by Jerry Garcia, but what is the name of it? Touch of Grey, I think the name of it. It's one of their real famous, like their radio hit ones too. Touch of Grey.
Mm-hmm.
And right at the beginning of the song, it says, "Paint by number sky, it looks so phony." And
Wow.
like, it's talking about, like getting up in the morning, I guess, looking at the sky, and
What year was that song then?
1987. So
Oh,
Right.
okay. Wow.
yeah, because initially people were saying, well, we didn't start seeing this till '95, and then it backed up till they didn't start seeing it till '90, and then like
Mm.
who knows, really. But I do remember, like you say, as a child, seeing like more clouds, like fluffier looking clouds, and I don't remember
Yeah,
seeing all this stuff, but who knows, right?
I know.
I really don't. I remember seeing more of those cumulus clouds,
Do you
and
remember as a child seeing the moon out in the day? Some people do, but I
yeah,
don't. You
yeah,
do
Yeah,
yeah,
remember
we've
seeing.
seen it out in the
yeah.
day.
I
Yeah.
mean, as children, I mean.
Yeah. As children,
Yeah.
yeah,
Me-
and I
I
would
did
always
too. Yeah.
think
Mm.
think how cool that was, and I remember saying, you can see the moon during the day. And I remember saying all that and stuff. So yeah,
Right.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, even my mother would be really, look at that. We can see the moon. What's that all about, during
Oh
the
yeah,
day?
yeah. And then when people talk about the moon, how you see the blue part through the moon. Well,
Yeah.
that's like you wouldn't see like black behind it, right? Right.
Right.
So you're seeing the atmosphere is filling in that gap of light. It's like you know how when people say the clouds are behind the moon or in front of the moon or whatever.
Yes.
That's all perception too. It
Well,
really it
You
really
you
is.
you believe though that we're seeing a reflection of it, don't you, as well? Whatever they are.
Oh yeah, it's like a projection of it is there's one theory now with popular within concave Earth actually that the sun and the moon are a projection, kind of like a what do they call those lighthouses? Like it would be spinning around, and so you're just seeing the projection coming off of each end of the light. It's there's a lot of things, but I know that like Eric Dubay will come out and say like the moon's holographic or it's a disc, and then you'll
yeah.
have they'll have like all these divisions within the flat Earth community to divide each other.
You know
You
what
know,
I did?
well it has
You know how sometimes, most of the times your mobile doesn't work or doesn't take the pictures, but I pointed it at the moon and I took pictures and I just put some filters on it on the phone, and it's a chocolate chip cookie with a light behind it.
right. Yeah,
It's crazy. We have no idea. We haven't even worked out what they are, what they're doing, the whole thing. We can't.
there's a
I
cookie
know.
there's a Cookie Monster ad for Sesame Street where he's taking a bite out of the Twin Towers, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's an old like Sesame Street poster.
Oh wow,
Can
I
I just
never
say
saw
Yeah,
we've been
that.
going for an hour now. How do
yeah,
you want to go on a bit longer?
we can. It's up to you guys. Whatever you want to do.
Or
Yeah,
do you want a 5 minute each thing?
we
Talk
could do
about,
that. That'll
yeah,
work.
do that then.
Okay.
I'll put
We can
ladies
do that.
first, Amy first.
Oh, well, we've been talking about so many different subjects. We were talking about the coronavirus and what that means, and we've been talking about the news and how it we just watched a clip that was on the Unscrambled channel from 1968 where it shows that they actually make up the news like 5 years in advance, and I guess and just about the chemtrails, and I guess
I
they
said that. I
can,
said
can
that though, didn't I, Amy? When when with our election, they filmed that weeks and weeks before.
that's right, yes, that's right,
The
so you
little
just
Boris in the
wonder.
street. Did gone on
Yes.
scrambled that one,
That's
Boris.
yes, that's right. And it's just I guess we're just a lot of us are really waking up to that everything maybe that they tell us and that we thought was true, that it's not true. But we could agree that we have to know ourselves. That's where it starts, is know ourselves and be at peace with ourselves. And then, we have to just know how to deal with everything that we have learned by being awake. And it's not easy to be awake. Sometimes I wish I I just went along with everything, but you just have to
We've done that one though, haven't we, Amy? Once you see it, you can't go back,
once you see
can you? And pretend you didn't see it,
that's right. And I was just watching this movie with my daughter. It was so silly, but it was I was really laughing at it. It was called Zombieland, and it was about these people that had survive the zombie apocalypse or whatever. And at the end of it, it showed a guy from that's one mainstream media named Al Roker. He's in one of the main. Not Good Morning America, but one of those like that, like a big mainstream media. And he's in this movie and he's playing a zombie. And I said to myself, see, this is what we are. We're just, a joke to them. This is a guy that's on mainstream media and he played in a silly movie and he turns into a zombie at the end or whatever. And I was just like, what I felt like they were just trying to tell us a lot of stuff. Like, everything you see isn't really true. Kind of like what we were talking about during the hangout, that they let us get clues or whatever in different movies. Like they live, they give us clues as to what's going on, but we don't know why or what they're doing. But we just have to kind of know ourselves and be secure in ourselves, I guess. And yeah.
Oh, thank you, Amy.
Oh,
Thanks for
you're
that. Michael.
welcome.
Oh, thank you, my darling. Michael?
You're welcome.
Oh, you're not going to do the 5 too? You said ladies first. All right, I
Oh.
guess.
Oh, me, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Well, it's been very interesting listening. I'll probably listen to you two talking a bit more today, but thank you very much for covering all the subjects that you have, both of you.
Oh,
The
thank
things on your
you.
mind, things that are worrying, things that, yeah. And also Michael told us how he kind of got to be where he is. So thank you very much for that one too.
Yes. That's
Yep.
great.
Okay, now basically I wanted to finish what I was saying about They Live connection with showing the spaceship portals at the end, docking the spaceships and time travelers. So that's why Freemasons are known as traveling. They're travelers. They have a
Oh.
special passport for international travel. And, they're allowed to basically move freely about in society. So, where the space and time comes in is basically being able to survive these resets in time and kind of control the media and control the script and basically being able to exist throughout the ages. So, kind of like the movie They Live. And they show you
Wow.
they're part of society. They're right there. They look like me and you, and they exist. They move throughout time. So they show you the truth within the movies,
Yeah.
but just not quite the way that it is there. Just like they show us the truth within the news, within everything, but it's kind of being able to read between the lines, being able to see through things.
Is that why they had to buy all the companies up, and there aren't many people there's only a few companies in charge of all the news companies because they need them all to put out the same story at the same time. If you've got hundreds of different companies, you've got to then go to each one of those. But if someone's managing and they own 25 stations, 30 stations over there, and there's only a few of them, then they put the message out, it comes to the,
It's a great way to...
Yes.
Control is going to be consolidated physically, inevitably anyways. There was going to be basically, because they're all going to answer to one person at the top. So all those companies, just a way to control everybody and what's being
Yeah.
said. Because when you do something wrong, you got to answer to the boss. But more
Right.
importantly than that is before any of that even happens, is the mind control is already there, and
Yes.
and that's already in place before any of those other physical restrictions that they could do to
Mm.
you, and all that. But another interesting thing I wanted to say, just a couple more things, is there's this stuff about Catholics being against Freemasons and this and that, and how there's just the struggle in society for control, governance, control. If you think about the way a church is designed, it has the pews to the right, to the left, and then it has the pulpit in the middle. This is the way that the Catholic Church is designed, just like a courtroom. It's got
Yes.
the pews you sit, and then it has the pulpit in the
Yes.
middle.
It was
Yes.
you that was talking about that the other
Yeah,
day.
they want you
Yeah.
to look at these things. The separation of
Michael, what are you
churches.
doing? Michael, what are you doing?
Sorry, is it doing it again?
Yeah.
All right, just a second. 1 second.
It's been doing it most of the hangout when
Oh.
you're moving around.
Okay.
You'll hear it on the
Yeah.
hangout.
All right. I'm sorry about
There's
that.
not much I can do about that with you moving around.
So basically, you can think of those church and state as the separation, those white and black checkerboard pieces on the Masonic initiation floor, the Egyptian tiles.
Yeah.
So they're all intermingled. They want you to think that there's a separation of church and state, but essentially, whether you believe the animosity is real, the enmity is real, doesn't matter, because you're still working for the same people at the end of the day.
Well.
These are the things that I talk about over and over again. So the people who have been following me are going to be familiar with a lot of these things, but a lot of you won't be. But it's just like your police officers and your street gangs in that same city. So
Yeah.
that police department lieutenants and captains answer to the same people that those gang chiefs answer to.
Yeah.
So basically, essentially, that at the top of the pyramid, they're all working for the same people, but they want you to believe, these people are the bad guys, these gang members. But
Generally, awake people are actually very calm people as well.
Yeah.
That's very true. I've seen that as well. Many times that's true. And then
Yeah.
they want us to believe that the people with the suit and tie, the lawyer, whatever it is, prominent
Mm-hmm.
figure in society, the doctor, the judge, is on the good team.
Yes.
The police officers, they're to help us. And at the end of the day, they're controlling the good guys and the bad guys, and you're doing just as much evil and good is being done on both sides, depending on yourself individually. But at the end of the day, they're controlling that world stage, and
Yes.
those the psyche of those people, because they work for their masters. Like it goes
Yes.
back to, like, you can only serve God or Mammon. And,
Right.
you can only be true to fellow man, Mother Earth, or be true to your satanic bankers.
Yeah.
Figuratively speaking. So that's all I wanted to say.
Unfortunately, we've got to still live in that world, haven't we?
We've got to still live in that world,
yeah.
That's right.
and just to close out, and this is where they kind of unify it into the next stage here, to where what we think of as the New World Order, and this next stage that we're going into with these different psyops, to where, like I was saying, they want it to be unanimous, to where everybody kind of agrees on it, get everybody on board, and just make it harder and harder for you to be separate from society. Because even though you're trying to be separate and do your own thing, duality is constantly there, and now it's going to make you feel isolated to the extent. So you can never, so you don't take a break on your personal growth. You don't try to fake it till you make it. You can only sweep it under the rug for so long. So,
Right.
eventually you just have to just snap back to reality. And that little out of body experience feeling that we have is not always a bad thing, It's letting you
Yeah.
know, and it's giving yourself time to reflect, look back on yourself. Um, and
Yeah.
it's not always a rush to, make that decision. I need to make this, it's white or black. I need to choose, Sometimes just a neutral state of just observing,
Yeah.
sitting in the middle of the room and just observing reality for what it is.
Mm.
So that's all. I just wanted to end there with
That's
that.
great.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to
Oh,
thank
thank you, Michael.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you,
I'd
Very
like to
everybody.
say, yeah, I'd
Great.
like to say thank you both, Amy and Michael, for coming on
Oh,
today and
oh.
having this great chat. Even if Freddie didn't come on,
I think
I'll
we'll
probably
catch
have an
him.
email when I go to my emails that
I have
I
a
can't
feeling
look
we'll be catching Freddie next time.
Yeah.
to
He'll
catch
probably
him next time.
something probably happen, and then so we'll
But
sit.
we had a good hangout, didn't we? We had something to talk
Oh,
about.
Yes.
I think this was probably the best one yet. You guys were a
Oh.
genius. It was
Oh,
really good.
thank
It was a really good
you.
one.
You
Yep.
too.
Oh, Michael, you too, Michael and Amy. We'll all give
Oh,
compliments out.
that's right.
Should we end the hangout now? And thank you so much, both of you, for coming on and
Oh,
chatting.
you're
We've had a really
welcome.
great time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was an
Thank you.
amazing hangout.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you both. And thank you
Oh,
everybody for watching as well.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Oh.
very much, chat room. So, mwah, Amy,
Mwah,
Michael, and
mwah.
chat room.
Yes.
Anyway, it's goodbye from us.
Oh, but goodbye,
Goodbye, everybody.
everyone.